Mr. Will's Music World.
Oh, hey there! I was reading about the violin, and today's episode is actually about the violin. So I thought it would be a great idea for Mr. Will to interview someone who plays the violin. Her name is Elisa Rose Cox, and we're going to interview her today. Hello friends, Professor William is absolutely correct. Today's lesson is all about the violin. This is actually a violin that Mr. Will, that is I, has in my studio, given to me by a friend, a dear friend of mine a few years back. And so I wanted to know and share a little more about the violin. So it's a great idea that Professor William had, and I agree with, to travel to Greensboro and interview my friend Elisa Rose Cox, who is an amazing violinist, and let her tell us a little bit more about the violin. So Mr. Will's son, William, and I are going to travel to Greensboro to interview Elisa. So why don't you come along with us and learn a little bit more about the violin. Hello friends, Mr. Will here, and I am with a special friend, Elisa Rose Cox, who is an amazing musician. And as I said before, we're going to be hitting the road and interviewing an amazing string player. And she plays not only the violin, but she also plays
Viola and cello
and the cello,
camellingoni and accordion and piano.
Wait, the camellingoni. We're gonna have to talk about that
we'll
here.
Talk about that later.
Definitely. Yeah. So exciting. So right now she actually has in her hand a violin. You see the violin here, and it's actually made out of wood. Now some violins are also electric violins and made out of different materials. This one is actually made out of wood. And it seems to have a pretty interesting history. It definitely has a very interesting look. I actually have a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit about these holes. And often when we see the violin or the cello, we see holes that look just like this. What are those holes?
These are called the F holes, and that's actually where a lot of the sound from the violin comes out. So when I play the violin, the strings vibrate on the violin and it comes out of the F holes and is amplified through them.
Oh wow. Can you perhaps, if it's tuned, I'm not sure if it's tuned up already, sometimes violins can be temperamental.
Those little feisty things.
Yeah. So perhaps if it's tuned, you can play just a little bit for us?
Sure. Let's see.
Have her bow.
Got my bow.
All right. Beautiful. That was awesome. You can clap at home too, right? That was amazing. Was that a little thing you just made up now?
I just made it up just now, yeah.
Wow. That, folks, is called improvisation. We'll talk about that as well. So we have the F holes here, and this one is made out of wood.
Yeah.
Do you know how old this violin is?
This violin was made in 1930.
Wow.
So this year it is 90 years old?
90 years old. So this is the oldest person
in my
thing in the room. Yes. All right, that's awesome.
It's all handmade by a guy named, his name is inside the F hole, but I can't actually read it because it's in a different language. It's like Caesar Maggiali.
Wow, so possibly Italian.
Possibly Italian,
Which many scholars say that classical era violin started in northern Italy. That's something we'll talk about as well later on. So, I'm also curious, and every now and then when I see the strings, are these strings metal?
Yeah, they're metal.
Oh, hello there. You're back. How is the interview with Elisa going? I'm sure it's going well. She's an amazing violinist. Did you know that the violin strings at one time, and still today, were made of sheep gut? Now, some people say catgut, but the actual word comes from cattle. So they were actually from sheep, small intestines. Interesting, isn't it? Well, I'm sure there was a lot in the process of making those intestines becoming strings. And some of you are probably going like, oh, but this is actually how people played on the violin. Now they're usually made out of different types of metal, including silver and other types of metal. Anyhow, I'll let you get back to the episode with Elisa Rose Cox on the violin. I'm gonna continue to read a little bit here about the history of the violin. What is the green? If you can see on the camera, there's little green wrappings around the strings on the bottom.
Yep, so if you think of just like a metal wire, these are just metal wires. And at the end, these green things, they help attach it to the violin. So it just kind of finishes each side of it, so it'll wrap into the violin.
Wow. And you play on your left-hand side,
yes,
underneath your chin there. Does anyone ever play on the other side?
Oh, I can guarantee it.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. And is this to help position it on your chin?
This is called the chin rest.
The chin rest.
This right here is called the shoulder rest.
Oh.
Yeah, it helps kind of bring it up to my neck, and then I can play with no hands.
And I would imagine the shoulder rest would have to have some soft padding.
Yes,
if you're playing for a while.
Yep.
Wow. Do you mostly play sitting down, or do you also play standing up?
Performing, I typically play standing up.
Standing up.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like to move around and, dance a little bit, have fun with the other stage performers.
Yes.
So.
Especially if there's a guy like me going.
Yeah, crazy people like him.
Yeah. So, question for you. I see what looks like a violin behind you as well. Is that also a violin?
It's not, Will. It's not. A viola.
It's a viola.
We grab that.
Oh.
All right.
But this looks a lot like the violin. What's the difference between the viola and the violin?
Well, you can kind of tell now if I put them side by side, but the viola is a little bit bigger. Of course, it just depends on how big it is, like which size you get.
Right.
This is a full-size violin, but fun fact about the viola, it's like an imperfect instrument, so there's no regular size for it.
No regular size?
No regular size.
Wow, so no standard size. So that means, what about in an orchestra? Do they try to keep them the same size, the violas?
It depends on how big the person is.
Wow.
So if a smaller person was trying to play this, they might not be able to. This one's almost too big for me even.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's bigger, so that means it plays lower.
It plays a little lower, but cool thing also is, so my violin strings are G, D, A, and E.
Ah, those are musical notes, and we've talked about that. We'll talk a little more about that later as well.
Yeah, and so viola is C, G, D, A.
Ah.
So the viola strings are lower already.
You're already starting on a lower note.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, I've seen and love to play with the cello, and the cello looks just like these. Is it basically a big violin?
Hold this.
Okay.
Hold my viola.
I hold my viola.
Okay, here's my cello.
Whoa, look at that.
So if I were to put these in order, it would be violin, viola, cello.
Viola, cello.
Because the cello has the same strings as a viola, but it's an octave lower, which means it's a whole 8 notes lower than the viola is.
Wow.
Yep.
Now this is amazing. Do most people that play the violin also play all 3 of these?
I don't think so.
No? So she's special, folks. Elisa is special, right?
Aw, thanks.
We're all special.
You're special too, Mr. Will.
Thank you. So we have the viola. Yeah, we can put that away. And then we have the violin and the cello. Now, also, these are all made out of wood. But sometimes, even like the cello, I've seen where they're also synthetic, like carbon fiber, a special type of glass made to become almost, some people say, near indestructible.
Yes.
But really, just so that you can play it outside in different weather. Because, which leads me to my next question, does the violin go out of tune very often? Do you have to tune it a lot?
Yes, it's hard to play outside if it's really, really hot and humid. It's also hard to play if it's really cold. Not only because my fingers are frozen, but because the violin, the wood will shrink or expand, and that causes the tuners just to release and the strings to stretch and contract.
What do you do if you're playing and then all of a sudden it goes out of tune?
I'm praying really hard it doesn't happen, but if it does, I'll just, I'll either just switch strings or I'll just quickly
wow.
fix it.
Do you ever play and then, which leads me to actually to another question. Maybe I should back up. How do you tune the violin? I see these pegs here.
These are called tuning pegs here, And this down here is a fine tuner.
Oh, so we go here first to tune.
There first for the big tuning.
Okay.
And then down here just for a little bit more.
Do you ever have to use that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So on beginner violins, you'll often see they'll have 4 fine tuners here. And that's just because it is like, it helps with those minute tunings, you know. But these will help with just a bigger.
Wow, that's really interesting. Have you ever played and then tuned and untuned it for like a special effect? That's just the weird percussionist in me.
Yes, I think I have. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What about, I have a question. Sometimes electric guitarists use these really neat foot pedals to get all of these effects. Have you ever seen anyone use one of those with a violin?
I do that with my violin.
You do that?
I do that.
Wow.
I do some weird things, mostly just reverb.
Okay.
But I can do some delay.
We're going to have a whole special
Yeah.
where we do some electric violin effect work. What do you guys think about that?
Looping. Oh yeah, all of that.
Wow. So Elisa, I see that you're playing with the, what is this called? This is a...
It's called a bow.
It's called a bow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And when you're playing with the bow, I see you have, it almost looks like
horsehair.
Horsehair.
Yeah.
Wow, they look like tiny little strings. But so this is made out of horsehair.
And so this hair comes from the tail of a horse.
Wow.
And if you think about
actual horse.
an actual horse. Yep, you can't grow this on trees. You grow it on a horse. So if you imagine like your own little hair.
Okay.
And you imagine putting
I
it
don't
on a
have
string.
much hair in my head right now.
Okay, imagine that. But it wouldn't play anything, you know. So what you have to do is put rosin on your bow.
Okay.
Rosin is a sap. And it helps it stick to the strings and actually make that sound and grip the string.
Wow.
So, you know?
So without the rosin, it would just slide right
it would just
over.
sound like.
Wow, that's interesting.
It would make no sound.
And I imagine that every now and then you have to clean your violin because of the rosin?
Mm-hmm. It gets sticky, so we just have a cloth that we just wipe it off.
Wow, that is fascinating. I bet we could do a whole show just on bows.
They're pretty amazing. Yeah, you can tighten them, and you can loosen them, and cool other things that you can do. Colle. Colle is another form. Instead of playing your bow like this, you turn it over like this.
Oh. Now I've heard of a term in violin playing called pizzicato. Is that like a pizzicato?
Nope, pizzicato is this.
Now that almost sounds like a mandolin.
Yeah, mandolin has the same strings as a violin.
Wow, we'll talk about mandolins. Well, this was all really insightful and a lot of information and beautiful playing, really. So let's just thank Elisa for being on the show with us, and hopefully she'll be on another show pretty soon. Thanks everybody for watching. You want to say bye to everybody?
Bye everyone, thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for watching us. See you soon.
Wow, boom, 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 boom. Mr. Will's Music World.
In 5, 4, you can go ahead and press record. Starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, here we go.